Mic check. 1, 2, 3, 4. Nine, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30-second song. How's everyone doing? Welcome back to Mapmaker Monday. That's actually a real song. I didn't make that up on the fly. It's a very, very old song. Oh, well, it's kind of obscure. Music Alchemist in very early access. It's early alpha at the moment. It's very bad. Hey Rev, how you doing? Well, dang, cannot find this song. I know it exists though. Kind of old. So when I was a kid, there was like all these like kind of popping up like punk labels and rock labels that were just like essentially popping up all over for kind of new emo wave bands and punk bands at the time. And if I recall, there was a compilation CD where they asked like so many different different bands to participate in it, like 100 bands, all made, each of them made one 30-second song, and they put them all on this CD, but I can't remember what it's called. Anyway, doesn't matter at all. Just making sure all the feeds are working. My TikTok was not working for a second. I do have Steam. TikTok is working now. Go. How you doing, Chim? Can you all hear me? My voice coming through? Test. Test. It looks like it's coming through. I just got a like from Facebook, so it looks like it must have gone through. Hey, Chow, how you doing? Let me guess what Chow's gonna say, though. I have a feeling. Inbound any moment. So we've got Steam, we've got TikTok, we've got... Looks like everything's coming through. check on the number of assets like in any given map. Hey, Lewis, thank you for confirming over on YouTube. Much appreciated. Steam, can any of you confirm you can hear me over there? And maybe Facebook, can we get a confirmation as well? We did drop a big like news kind of article on our Steam today. Steam is like basically, you know, we have our forum there, and obviously we post when we have an update, we post like a big announcement with all the like patch notes and stuff. And in the downtime between then, you know, we answer questions and stuff, and we have a frequently asked questions pin and stuff. But we do have people ask on occasion, hey, what's going on? What's the news? And we usually refer them to our Discord or our social networking, because that's where we post like teasers and news and information. And a few people kind of just stated kind of sternly that they wanted news on Steam because that's where we publish. So it makes sense, you know, that we would post an update there every once in a while. However, Steam doesn't make it quite as conducive. Like, to post a video on pretty much any social networking, it takes like a minute. To post a video on Steam, it takes like 15 different steps, and you have to have specialized graphics just for the post in several different sizes. So I coordinated with Wim, and we made kind of a universal graphic for our dev updates going forward, and like dev news. And we're going to do a news post on Steam once a month to accommodate to our Steam viewers, because we want to be more accommodating to the viewers and supporters there. Obviously, you know, the majority of you got Dungeon Alchemist through Steam, so it makes sense that we'd have a little bit more diligent presence there. That being said, I am very excited to continue doing that and working on it. I would love to kind of show you what we put together. It's essentially a news announcement for... Oh, that's the Mapmaker Monday one. Nope, hold on, I scrolled too far. Right here. So it says development news, and then we essentially put together an article kind of outlining all the new features that we have that we could showcase, at least for now, and some of the upcoming ones we'll be sharing soon. You just found me on Blue Sky? You mean Dungeon Alchemist or me? Because we're both there. Both! Okay, let's see here. But, nice. How you doing, Milo? So this essentially outlines a bunch of new features, and you can watch videos and kind of get descriptions of everything we're working on. But I do have these clips, and I'll share them on the stream today, so no worries there. Unless you want to get a sneak peek right now, you can hop over and check out the Steam page and see the news post. But it kind of, you know, here's some information on decals, batch exports. A lot of this stuff we've covered on stream and in our social networking and Discord. So if you if you haven't been following along, this is kind of like basically a mashup super article with all the most recent teasers and information. Coffee and art. Nice, Milo. That's a good morning. That's basically what I'm going to be doing today, too. I already had my coffee. Might have a little bit more in a bit. Now we're getting on with our art here in a moment. How was everyone's weekend? Did anyone do anything interesting? Did you get any gameplay in? Did you get any session prep? Did the biggest bad of all get in your way? Scheduling conflicts and prevent you from gaming with your table? Let's hear about it. Additionally, I would love to kind of chat with y'all about some of the upcoming features and share these clips shortly. So please stand by if you're interested in knowing more about some of the upcoming features and information related to the Fun with Objects update. Let me know in chat. Let me know what you're most excited for. Let me know what questions you have, and we'll start addressing them. By the way, during the stream today, we will be focusing on building kind of around this area here, which I called the Caretaker's Cabin. Or the Caretaker's Cottage. This map is a massive cemetery complex. That is just like a corner of it. This is something we've been working on about... pretty much been working on this about a half hour, an hour a week, each Monday on stream for about 3.5, 4 months. started with this corner here, which is an entry point and has kind of evolved from there. We've got some kind of generic graves. We've got chapel here, which was quite a monumental build. I built like this 3-story bell tower by hand. This massive garden all around it by hand. It's been quite a task. Here we have more graves, etc. This place is huge, though. The map is 82 by 82, and it's pretty much, I'd say, about 2/3 done. We're getting very close. So the last few sessions, we've been kind of fleshing out this property here. The caretaker, I imagine, they live here. They take care of all the plants, all the, graves. They, make sure it's clean, make sure, everything looks presentable. And as a result, they probably also have a mad-looking property that's really nice on site. So they have, like, this little cottage, but they've also, built a garden around it and have, like, a really, nice space to use and live in. So we kind of been fleshing out a headcanon for this each week as we develop the space more. Last week we added this greenhouse, and we were going to kind of add some stuff into that because I figure he's a bit of a green thumb. Amazing how much Dungeon Alchemist has evolved since the backer days. Right, Lewis, right? It's crazy, right? Chow, you know what? Let me show you some interesting stuff. Oops. See. So in the next update, you'll be able to essentially apply images to surfaces, including objects, floors, walls, doors. And these images, we call them decals. Mateus, it's great. How are you, my friend? By the way, if you see me talking and you're like looking at a chat and you're like, wait, who is he talking to? Because this chat doesn't have that person's name. We are multi-streaming on 6 different platforms at the moment. Twitch, TikTok, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and Steam simultaneously. So if if I'm talking and saying something to a name you don't recognize, it's probably on an alternate platform. So my apologies, and I do my best to monitor all the chats simultaneously. So if for some reason you ask a question and I don't reply right away, it's because I'm probably like doing a dance and moving my head around trying to find your particular message. So I apologize if I don't notice a statement or a question right away. So, Chim, troubleshooting lag of last map. I mean, a lot of things can cause a map to lag. It can be the amount of assets and lights and like animated assets, right? It could be the size of the map. It could also just be lagged from how big you're trying to view it at. Like if you zoom out on a map, any map, really, Dungeon Alchemist, remember, it renders everything that's visible in real time. So it's not a pre-rendered environment, and it essentially, if you widen the view, you're rendering the entire map, which can cause it to choke up if there's lots of assets, lighting, animation, things like water, lava, any of that stuff. So the decals, I'm not 100% certain, but Wim was saying they're going to make it so you can put in your own custom images. Currently, in its current state, you cannot do that. But yeah, let's see here. Had a session that the dice got. Oh, I saw you post about how your players each of them got a D20. There was 3 D20s rolled in a row. Is that right, Mondu? So decals, I mean, they're pretty expansive. I don't think these blood ones will make it into the final build. They're more tests, but there's like dirt, there's footprints, tally marks, pock marks from explosions. You can really bring a place to life. I love the cracks because it makes it feel so much more decrepit in here. Anyway, just kind of putting this into perspective, this new feature is going to be great. It'll be a new tool in the toolbar just above the tracing feature there. So yeah, essentially, I mean, you can currently import your own images into DA in several ways. If you're not aware of this, I'll let y'all know. For instance, paintings, a lot of them, you can just insert a custom image into them. And when you do this, it becomes essentially whatever you want it to be. So here, I've got a snail shell on the wall if I want. But I could go with the custom one. I could, make it ripped and look decrepit. But a lot of objects you can insert custom images into. Parchments. There's like, things that are like documents you can put on tables and hang on walls. There's like message boards or like notice boards you can change out images on. Now, there's also objects you can kind of customize. These green screen objects. These are customizable. They're called abstracts. So in these, you can insert images. So a lot of people in our community will use these for like footprints, or blood, or things like that. So this is the primitive kind of alpha version of decals, and decals is getting a huge improvement in the next update. We're going to make a bunch of decals for you, but I also hope you can make a custom one. So, Chim, did that help at all? I don't know. Let's talk more about this. Can you share the map with me? Can you DM it to me on Discord? Because I would love to take a look at it, if I could. Wow. That's a crazy hit. Crazy, Mondu. 56 plus fall damage. How much fall damage was it? So yeah, if you want to insert custom imagery into, your maps, whether it's, a blood or, here, let's see. I could do a magic circle. All sorts of things if I really wanted to at the end of the day. But it's very, kind of catered to those who know how to do graphic design or source images and stuff. So for now, you would need to kind of do this more manually, but the next update will take a lot of the guesswork out of it. Hey, OGAI man, how you doing? Welcome, welcome. Thank you for the hype. Much appreciated. I like to think Dungeon Alchemist is for the win. Man, I haven't seen woot woot and for the win in the same sentence in so long. You must be around my age. Sorry to call you out like that. I just probably. So like I grew up, I'm like a millennial, and I was born in the 80s, grew up in the 90s, and I swear woot woot and like for the win, that seems like, yeah, it seems like late dig, early Reddit culture. It's fantastic. Yes. See, we must be roughly the same. Same era. By the way, welcome. I'm assuming you are a fan of Dungeon Alchemist, as you seem to be quite thrilled that we're live at the moment. For those just tuning in, I am It was the challenge map. Okay, the challenge map, yeah, part of the reason it's so slow, tons of assets. You have over a gig and a half of assets on that single map. So, and then the size of the map, it's on the larger side, like I would say medium high. And then you essentially crammed tons and tons of assets into a single map. So, between the amount of assets that have to be downloaded and the amount of assets in the map, it definitely will cause it to slow down. And currently one thing that Dungeon Alchemist is kind of that limits your ability to like run maps very smoothly is we are currently only running on one of your cores on your PC. So essentially you have a you have like all your cores in your like multi-core whatever setup if you have, you know, like a nice CPU, hyper threading or whatever, and then it's only using one of them, so it's kind of bottlenecking it, if that makes sense. And it's because we're in early access. They're essentially limiting it until we can like guarantee performance success on a greater scale. But yeah, Chim, I would say in the future, if you want to, you know, prevent lag at that degree, one way to kind of combat it is to... Yeah, it's nice. It is nice. How you doing, Asmodeus? So, I would say, you know, it is, your maps have such a grand scale. There was tons of animated assets. There was tons of assets in general. And then a lot of downloaded assets. All of those things kind of combo wombo and make it a little bit kind of laggy. Does that make sense? So in the future, if you want to prevent that, I would say either limit the amount of third-party assets, you know, kind of minimize, or try to use as much stock stuff as possible. And on an average map, try to keep the amount of assets on the map to... especially like third-party assets, maybe keep it to like 10 to 20 instead of like 50 to 100, you know? By the way, y'all, if you want some fun with objects news, drop over on our, over in our Steam, right? I just put up a news post today with a bunch of information related to the Fun with Objects update. And it's essentially just kind of all the teasers we've shared in the last few months and a couple of new ones. Jim, though, that map was cool. My computer, though, was even struggling running it, so I get what you're saying. It's a beast. Here, let me load up that map. Or that teaser. So yeah, you'll be able to essentially make an underground superstructure that's all kind of linked into a single map. What that means is, you know, now you'll be able to have basements, secret underground lairs, sewers, and catacombs all under a single map. Or all contained within a single map. Yep, underground water. It's going to be pretty cool with all of this stuff in tandem. It's essentially merging the forest and cave biomes into a single biome. Like before, you could do a cave, but it had to be above ground, right? Like it was into a mountain or something. Yeah, this particular one actually shows the levels, which is nice, so you can kind of get an idea. But you can use the plus or minus key to jump between them or click on these arrows. So you can manually click with your mouse or just use a hotkey. And this here will hide the terrain, essentially making it less confusing if you don't want the terrain showing. Lots of cool stuff. Oh, hey, who was here on Saturday when we were talking about the abstract lights? Does anyone remember that conversation at all? I'll show you the clip we were sharing on stream. So abstract lights are a new type of lighting you'll be able to add to your map. Essentially, they took the cue and inspiration from our community members sharing invisible lighting options and made it so you too can now, have a simple, easy lighting that's invisible in whatever color you want. The current option on the workshop is great, but it's you have to have a bunch of different ones, right? So there was a question brought up after I showed this if there will be a spotlight version, like a bullseye lantern. And I brought this up with Wim, and he goes, you know what? I hadn't even thought about it, but I like the idea. So it looks like that's going to be added on the to-do. So as long as there's time to squeeze it in, they'll likely add a spotlight version of this as well. So right now it's more like just a general area, and then the next one will hopefully be a spotlight. So y'all, thank you for bringing up that suggestion, and I'm glad that Wim appreciated it and was hyped for it. This clip here actually is pretty cool. Here, let me slow it down a little bit. So essentially, in the next update, we've added batch exporting, which essentially will allow you to create and save presets of different exports. So here, let me pause it. If you look at this, I've got Foundry, 72 DPI, image, morning, no borders, gridless. Foundry, 72 DPI, image, night, no borders, gridless. So you could go through and this is how I named it, just to kind of keep it simple so I know what's what. But you could go through and create a bunch of pre-configured export options. So 150 DPI with grid, animated, whatever, and all of the things you might do. So you could do morning, night, afternoon, evening, snow, no snow, animated, non-animated, set them all up in a big batch, and then, before you go to bed at night, just hit export, and it'll do them one after another, after another, after another, after another, until they're all done. This is great, especially if you export multiple versions of a map, as day and night, snow, all these, most people do like 3 to 4 versions of their maps just to have like several options. Especially when you do animated. I always personally will do an animated and a still as a backup, just in case one of my players can't load the animated. So essentially, in any case, I'll have a map where it's animated and non-animated. Usually I'll have, all 4 times a day and snow. So it essentially gives me some options. But then you essentially create all your pre-configured setups, and then they'll be saved every time you go to export maps in the future. So it's a little bit of a pain to set them up, but once they're all set up, oh man, it's so quick in the future for you. Someone like Sack, for instance, says each of his maps that he exports, when he does them for his Patreon, it's like 90 plus exports he has to do. So with a tool like this, it'll save him, it'll kind of make it only like 2 steps once it's configured. That's a lot of time saved at the end of the day. Trying to figure out how to block this. I'm not sure, actually. I haven't even tried to stop it, but I'm assuming there's like a cancel or an abort. Next time I'm in the dev build, I'll take a look and see. Whoa. What just happened? What in the heck just happened? Weird. Yeah, it's like, you remember when we were younger and the TV, like when the signal was coming in bad and your parents would have you go up and hold the bunny ears antennas and like hit it and like turn the like tuning because it would be like and then it would like lock in. Right? That's exactly what it reminded me of because it was like locked in a little, the V sync or like the V whatever was a little bit off and you'd have to turn the knob and get it up just a little bit. Does anyone remember that, or is that just like exclusively me? Because I remember one of my family's first TVs was like one of those big wooden ones that was like on the, it like had a big wooden box around it and it was on the ground and you could put things on top of it. And then there was like some bunny ears antennas on top of it that was hooked in. And my parents would have me like, yeah. Man, that's definitely like an old timer type thing there for sure. I feel like I was in the tail end of that, though. I remember that joke. Holy cow. If you have a 50-pound weight on your TV table, right? You might be. That's what it is. That's what it is for sure. Okay, let's see here. I'm thinking some wall plants. Or we could even do some of these like overgrown, like, nah, it's too big. Take this ivy. This is completely unnecessary, but I just really wanted to finish off the aesthetic here. Come on, man. Work with me. Oh my goodness. It is like snapping all over the place. Let me move it somewhere where I have more room. Hopefully it won't freak out as much. Yeah, it does not like being up against anything here. Jeez. There's a weird object. It was fighting me. Don't see that very often. When you do, it's frustrating. Man, I haven't thought about Jeff Foxworthy since I was like a child. I remember my parents were like in a country music kick in the 90s and they got me a Jeff Foxworthy CD, which, like, I don't know, in hindsight, probably as a child wasn't necessarily a good idea. Some of the stuff on it was, say, questionable. Thank you. I just got some coffee. I just got some coffee. Thank you, love. So I have some amazing news. It's only amazing for me, really, but it's amazing still. The long-awaited piece of my Venture Brothers collection will be arriving sometime today. It's so hype. I'm excited, okay? Just be happy for me. So, let's just say, for some reason, Season 7 of Venture Brothers on Blu-ray is next to impossible to locate. There was a very limited printing of them. It's the last season, and, you know, afterwards it was canceled. They did a bunch of DVDs, but hardly any Blu-rays, so they're, like, really hard to find. And, even used, really hard to find. So for like the last year, I've been trying to track one down. I've had the entire Venture Brothers, seasons on DVD for years. I bought a box set again, so I have them on DVD twice, but I wanted all the Blu-rays, which they only have them in season 3 through 7, and then the movie. Because season 1 and 2 were like pre-HD. Anyway, I'm just excited. I know it's like my personal quest. I'm like, it's silly, no one really cares. But it is amazing. And the fact is, I found a brand new one. Like, it's not even opened. And I got it for a reasonable, like, non-pirate price, So I feel like I really won in this instance. I'm very excited. It has definitely been quite a quest. I don't even know how to explain, like, how much time and, like... Because in any spare moment I had, like... when I'm not with my family or working or something, I would essentially try to look for this. And, I can find season 3 Blu-ray, season 4 Blu-ray, season 5 Blu-ray, season 6 Blu-ray, no problem. Season 7, though, it's pretty much either only sold in a bundle with all of them for like $1,000, like $800, which I'm not going to pay that much, or used for like $200-$300 if you can find it. So I basically just started calling every shop between Vegas and Toronto. Every day I'd just like go to a town, a city, open it up on Google Maps, start calling all the secondhand thrift stores, all the bookstores, all the CD and record stores, any place that sold media. Thank you, Brain Bomb. I appreciate it. It was quite the quest, to say the least, but it's coming to an end today. I'm so excited to get the sealed copy, be able to open it. I could keep it sealed, but honestly, just opening it for myself is the most satisfying thing. Something that's been sitting on a shelf for 6 years, being unnoticed by anyone until I found it and ordered it. Like, it's pretty cool. Anyway. The shop I found it at was essentially like out of the Twilight Zone. It was like a time capsule. I'm not even joking you. It's like a ma and pop multimedia store that tiny little kind of hole in the wall place. And they essentially sell, multimedia of all kinds, music, Blu-ray, DVDs, but their main focus and what's kept them going the last 20 years is like manga and anime. And this place, their website is like 30 years old. I'm not even kidding you. It's a time capsule. And when I found this website, I knew the moment I saw it that this place had it, because it showed it in stock, but it showed the DVD version on the listing. And the website was so ancient, anyone like nowadays would go to the website and be like, is this a scam? Is this real? I'm not even gonna look at this a second thought. But someone who grew up in like the 90s on the internet, like, this is like a normal thing. It looks very old, but normal for that era. But the best part is the guy sold it to me for retail plus shipping. I didn't even have to like pay a whole ton for it. Anyway, I'm very excited. I'm very hyped. It's coming to a conclusion, this whole like collection thing for this particular, thing. And I'm excited to be able to rip it to my media library. It'll be fun. I kind of have made an endeavor of backing up all my physical media and making like a home media server the last few years, or the last year and a half or so. And it is actually quite fun. I don't know. I started learning that a lot of my movies were rotting. Like your DVDs and Blu-rays and HD DVDs, they can suffer from something called disc rot. Just sitting on your shelf at room temperature, it can happen. They'll get these weird like bubbles under the plastic, and then it won't play anymore. in that sector. I had tons of DVDs and, HD DVDs particularly that just rotted. And so I started backing them up for that reason. My whole media collection is now, in 3 different places. I've got the physical collection on my shelf. I've got my hard drive, and then hard drive A that we stream from, and hard drive B is the backup. Oh, what? Really, Blue Maids? That would be so sad. Real Ghostbusters? That's so cool. Lord Rev, make sure it's a Blu-ray drive when you get it. LG sells an external one that I got. It works great. Check this out. Just hooks up to 2 USBs, and it can do DVDs or Blu-rays. I think I spent like $60 on this. It was on sale. And yeah, definitely start backing up your media now. It has a shelf life, for sure. But I started doing that out of necessity because I just don't want to lose. I paid for that stuff. I don't want to lose it, right? Like, that's crazy that you could pay tens of thousands of dollars for media and it just rots sitting on your home shelf. That makes 0 sense. Like, make that make sense, right? So I definitely want to have backups on backups. I really like how I'm making this feel like, more lived in. It's been here a while. What kind of things should I put in these beds? I was thinking more like food, practical items, things like herbs and stuff. I'm open to suggestions, though. If a warlock could, like, reach into the Matrix and pull out items, like, like the shop in the Matrix movie where he, like, goes to the procurement area and just grabs all the armor and guns. I need lots of guns. Man, that'd be cool. Like, essentially, a patron can give you, like, a plus whatever type magic item. You can just pull it from the void. Get me guns. Lots of guns. Yeah, a ward officer, as I like to call it. That'd be interesting. Chives? Ooh. I think I might want to put one of these dryads in here somewhere. Maybe a room or something. We'll see. I just saw that there and I wanted to do something with it before I forgot. I need some of these plants pots, like, all around, just chilling out, like, to the side, right? They need to be, like, on the shelves and, like, doing stuff. What else do we got here? Man, the next update's going to have so many more veggies, but for now, we're going to probably have to make do with, like, some mushrooms and stuff, so let's start with that. So we'll put, like, an assortment of fun little mushrooms in this. Some fun guys. See, I just don't think of this as poison ivy. I think of it as just ivy. You know what I mean? But yeah, I get it. It could definitely be a poison ivy. Or something along those lines. Why is there no collider in this? It's so frustrating that you can't just, like, pop that in there. Okay, so mushrooms definitely want, but I need, like, more food, and we don't have, like, many plants that are in the ground. Don't want to do trees. Up here. Do some lettuce, right? What do you mean it needs a slider? Elaborate. Because it does. It takes advantage of all the object features. So when you make a custom brush, it takes advantage of all of these tools. Sorry, okay. Yeah, so brush density is how many? Brush size combined with scale average minus the randomness, so it doesn't mix it up, would be much larger. You have all these tools that you can combine. You can set a grid, painting circle, lines, scatter. Brush size directly interprets the size of the object. Let's turn down the density so it's far less. Also, remember, at the end of the day, you can place any rock or whatever, and let's turn the scale randomness down. And see, now they're much larger on average. If we turn this down and then set the density up, bunch of little rocks. But yeah, check out this advanced menu. The hamburger menu here gives you a few different options, plus the main options. But the custom brushes will take advantage of all that as well. Indeedly. Yes, indeedly. Do my neighbor. Deedly do, deedly do. That'll teach you to pay attention. Honestly, like, there's a lot of little hidden features in Dungeon Alchemist that are easy to miss because it's, like, not fully advertised all the time, you know? But what I do all the time is I'll pay attention to these little add-ons here in the corner. Like in the light menu, that's a big add-on because it turns it from 4 times of day to, brightness, whatever you want, time of day, where the sun is located, and color filters. So you can really give it a fun, different feel. It does take time and practice for sure. I think one of my favorite things to do is just kind of open each menu and kind of go through each little setting and tab. What does this do? What does this do? What does this do? I don't know. I'm one of those people that when I get a new item, I read the manual first. I'm kind of old school that way. But I get it. Like it's definitely not like easy to just digest all of this stuff in a single setting. A lot of times, though, more often than not, there is some way to do what you're trying to do or approach the thing you're trying to do. You just got to, like, either locate it or kind of understand the steps to, reach that goal, so to speak. So that's kind of what we're here for and the Discord's for, and I'm glad you even asked, Blue Mage, because you wouldn't have known, right? You keep saying time and practice. I want to be awesome all the time with it. And I think, you're kind of saying something that is like kind of true to a lot of people's hearts, Evo. It's not even a joke. You're speaking the truth. I think this day and age, first off, a lot of things have been designed to be easier to learn and digest, right? There's not a whole lot of, things that you, know end to end, right? Like, back in the day, you'd buy a product, you kind of, had to understand how to pull it apart and clean it and maintain it and do all these things with it. Nowadays I see videos of people who have had an air filter for 3 years and didn't realize that the filter inside was covered in plastic and need to be removed before they started operating it. So they've gotten zero benefit out of it for 3 years. So I get it. It's really frustrating when something isn't straightforward and simple. I think a lot of video games have started going that route to make it easier. And it's a combo factor as we get older too. Like we work, we have family, we have obligations. We don't have as much time as we used to master our favorite hobbies and skills that we want to. But luckily, Dungeon Alchemist is designed to be easy and kind of scale with you. So it's really, really simple to just kind of grasp and learn rather quickly. No, I mean, it's true. First off, I mean, at this day and age, pretty much everyone is working extra. You know, like the average American's working two jobs, maybe even more, just to make ends meet. So if you're working two jobs, you know, minimum maybe 60 hours a week, you don't have much time between that and sleeping to learn hobbies, right? So I'm at work right now too, wouldn't you? Wouldn't you believe it? So I, I agree with you that even in a joke way you're saying it that it is hard to pick up a new skill. Luckily, Dungeon Alchemist is designed to be easy, but also has these little areas that if you just click them and open them, can give you a lot more utility. These extra tabs that a lot of people often ignore, don't even realize they're there. What do? Edit room, for instance. If you click on a room, okay, I could delete the entire room or delete all the objects in a room in a single click if I wanted to. I could refresh the room. I could change the room shape. But I think just putting in a little bit of effort into exploring the menu of Dungeon Alchemist, which is rather simple to like dive into because most of the settings are pretty straightforward. And there's not like hundreds of them. It's not like Photoshop. It's like maybe 2 or 3 settings per menu, right? At most, the object brush has like a chunk. But I think, once you master these tools, it makes you, that much like more versatile and resilient as a cartographer and a GM. Dungeon Alchemist can do pretty much anything you want it to if you kind of know everything it can do. It is it is like Photoshop in that regard where you can get to the same result, 3 or 4 different ways if you know how to use the tool correctly, right? I don't know if that makes any sense or not. I like a little break once in a while. So Dungeon Alchemist can allow you to, make an entire map in moments without much practice, but if you dive into it and start learning all the minutia, holy cow, that's when you start getting, maps like what you're seeing on the workshop that are like crazy looking like this, or some of these are insane looking at a glance, right? And I'm sure often people wonder, how do people do this? It's a lot of practice. But oh my goodness, is it amazing when you can start, essentially anything you think of can be put into a map. You're essentially free as a GM then to do whatever you want. Yeah, the buildings will stay, but the outside will change because it regenerated the biome around the buildings, Jim. Unfortunately, there's no way around that. Okay, I think I'll just keep focusing on this Ivy situation. Yeah, unfortunately, everything outside the house will warp and change. Any objects you've placed will change. Remember, you can always Control Z and undo it, though. What I would recommend doing before you alter the biome is do a file save as so you can fork the map. So when you go to file, cat fur just landed on my nose. Oh my gosh, almost breathed it in. Sorry. You can save as, make a new version of the map, so you have the old one, which is, saved and backed up, and then the fork, which is the new one. Yeah, the cursor, I feel the cursor marker I think is really nice because then I can be like here, and you guys go, oh, that's what he's talking about. Because otherwise, it's kind of hard to follow the mouse sometimes. Like I totally get that. Frustrating, in fact, infuriating at times to follow the mouse. That is not on the wall. What are you doing? What? Oh, get on. Oh, get out of here. That is not. That's. This ivy is frustrating me to high heaven right now. Making sure there's no ivy cutting through these walls. Looking good. Okay. Man. So, has anyone put any thought into their dam challenge maps? What you gonna make? Too busy making a city beach? Nice. Dyson's like, can't sleep, won't sleep, making maps. If I stop making maps, then my players won't be able to play. No. Right? You get it, Rev. Only dams. So I I'm considering expanding the stream schedule in two different ways. One, I want to add a kind of, well, my time frame night, but it would be kind of morning, early morning for our friends across the pond in Europe and adjacent. Um, so ideally, I see you, Rev. Jim, you're working on yours now? That's awesome. Hmm. EA's frozen. Please don't crash. Please don't crash. That's my sign to save. So I want to add a night stream to the week, right? And by that I mean there would be kind of a, like, maybe I'm thinking Friday night, Saturday morning for our viewers across the pond. And that would be pretty much like Dams After Dark or something like that. Only Dams. I don't know what to call it at this point. But I want to try and give our audience across the pond more opportunities to watch. So, like I said, Dams After Dark or whatever we call it, will be essentially a stream catered to late night, kind of Friday night hanging out. What that will evolve into, if it will happen or not, remains to be seen. I will need to discuss it with the devs and see if they approve. But if they do, then it'd be pretty fun to kind of add another stream to the schedule in that regard. The other stream I've been considering adding is a stream that is a campaign, i.e. DMing players, Dungeon Alchemist maps, showcasing how to best use Dungeon Alchemist in a campaign, all the immersive ways you can use it with your players, not just with maps, but, with handouts and chase scenes, cut scenes, long rests, etc. So ultimately, I feel like this would be pretty fun for our audience. And ideally, I would be recruiting viewers or members to play from our community. What I was hoping to do is have essentially like a audition and an application / audition where we gather a crew of people to be players. I would be a player, and then we'd hire a professional DM who would manage all the, minutia of all that stuff. And then I would manage the production aspect of the stream and, make sure it's live and everything's working. You can see the players if they want to be seen, hear the players if they want to be heard. And ultimately, kind of manage that end of it while I participate as a player and manage, that stuff. So I don't know if this will happen or not. These are things I kind of just want to talk to the devs about and see what they think. But I love to hear community feedback on that too. When you see it, do you think, hey man, that actually does sound pretty fun? Or are you like, I don't know. At first glance, I'd love to hear initial opinions on that. Campaign would be very fun. I think so too. But the fun thing too would be we could have devs and people on the dev team as a guest spot once in a while, like a revolving door spot that they can jump in and help us for a little bit, and then they because they're usually kind of focused. Yeah, like a one shot with them here and there. But I was more hoping to have a more long term campaign with DA as the focus. Obviously, the whole party is the focus, but we're doing it on the Dungeon Alchemist channel, so it's to highlight how Dungeon Alchemist can be used to really turn your campaigns up to 11. So, yeah, I mean, this is something that's in the kind of in the works, at least like I'm kind of just developing the ideas, picking time slots. I think the game would be on Sundays, and then the night stream would be on Friday nights. Because there's a lot of ways, just not just you can use Dungeon Alchemist that isn't just as a map. Like Dungeon Alchemist is an immersion tool too. It's not just a map maker, so you can use that to your advantage to essentially create handout material. I like to place a token, for instance, in my maps, and if say this is the first time the players walked into a pub. I like to create an immersive, like, cutscene entrance for players when they first go into a critical area or an interesting area. I could use the damn challenge maps. Yeah, it would be nice to highlight community maps. Come on. Come on. So, let's assume I'm walking into a pub the first time, right? So in, like, video games, when you have interactive cutscenes when you first walk into an area, that when you're in first person, it'll like open the door, you walk in, and then usually you'll kind of pan around and get the lay of the land, look around, see people, maybe you'll catch a strider in the corner, see where the bar is, and then walk over, right? Typically, people, when they walk into a new area, especially someone who's, used to fighting and defending themselves, will kind of get a lay of the land, get an idea of where the doors and windows are, who's in there, what's going on before they, commit to being in there. Noticing there's like melons hanging through the back there. But I use that as an interactive tool, kind of like a little cutscene. It's definitely not that one, it's this one. Goodness. I have to shrink that guy down. Bring it up like this. It's about as... Okay, we got some melons, finally. Thank you for the likes, TikTok. Much appreciated. Bay leaves up here in the... Like, make a little, section of bay leaves. What should we put up in here? Ooh, that teapot. Let's put that somewhere in here. Put it on the table. Looks like the teapot from The Office. Even got that green hint to it. And we could put just like a little thing of tea right here. Next to the honey, right? Sense. I always get sidetracked when I build, but it's like a big process. My brain doesn't really work in a straight line. It kind of meanders. I want some honey. Are you secretly a bear? I need to know, Evo. Bears love honey. And I'm a Pooh Bear. No, just a man. Only. Ooh, we could put some basil up in here. There we go. So we got basil and bay leaves. Some melons. Who doesn't like some melons? And then I was thinking of putting like pumpkins over here. Maybe even have some gourds. Shrink these bad boys down. Gorgeous. I'm here all week. Mondu, are you threatening to ban me? You can dream, can't you? A gourd is huge. We should call him Gordo. We'll have one mega gourd, and then the rest will be like baby gourds that are like nowhere near the size, right? Gordon. See, now I need some of these like vines. I think I'll have to hide a little pumpkin inside Gordon just to get this feel. Unnatural, I tell ya. They are, Lublinkin, huh? Just watching a map being built is pretty chill. It's pretty, let's just say it's a vibe, right? So big it needs supports. That's pretty cool, but I don't know. It's kind of blocking it now. I'll just put some of this like acerium around these to make it look like it's the vines from it. That looks pretty good. And then, let's see, what should I put in the final planter? Wish I had something that looked like carrots. Like, we have carrots, but carrots are, like, in the ground. Do we have potatoes, I guess? They could be on the surface. Just a couple of them. Just barely sticking out. Yeah, it does kind of look like a carrot. No, you're right, my man. It does have the that vibe. But I mean, carrots have leaves on the top. I guess it's more like a grass, huh? That's just so much more work. Who wants to do that? Ain't nobody got time for that. Mm. Quiet. I get a gamer face, Evo. Oh man, you should watch me play shooters on stream. It is something else. I had a whole subset of people who enjoyed watching me just because of my face on stream. Because I just make these weird, like, gamer faces. Oh, I drew a face? I didn't notice. Did I? Oh, there is one, huh? I thought you were just making fun of my gamer face. Which also does happen quite a bit to me, so at least it used to. And then I'm just going to put like a carrot sitting out here on the thing so it looks like we could even delete one of them. So it's like been pulled. Put this here. It just looks like a carrot that's been pulled up. I didn't even notice I had made a face. His prize gourd. Hmm. Fey mushrooms. These totally safe to eat, I promise. Let's put some of these in here. Look at these fun guys. Oh, those won't. These are wall mounted. Darn it. Do we have any of those that aren't? Other mushroom I can put in there. It's just like one of these. The Mario mushroom. Let's go. Okay. He's got his little garden here kind of set up. Probably going to add like a watering can. That's a good idea. We can just set that like on the ground here. Next to any one of these. I feel like it looks good right here. I'm going to move that pot under here and then put that here. Watering can, and then what else does he need? Little bread peels. We could put one in as like a shovel. Tiny. This looks like a little spade or something. Jeez, I'm sorry. I mean, he's a gardener. He likes gardening. What do you want me to do? I'll put this on top of this. Okay. Good amount of diversity there. That looks fun. What games can you import to this? Dymos, you don't really import games to it. You make maps and then you export the map to your virtual tabletop or play mode of choice. So our maps are designed to be exported for tabletop RPGs, such as D&D or Pathfinder, primarily in a fantasy setting. So you would build a map and then you export it in top-down for play local if you want to print it, or maybe you have a TV tabletop or a projector tabletop. You can export it as a digital file or an animated loop. We also offer export support for Foundry, Fantasy Grounds, Roll20, etc. So you can export your maps and use them with your virtual tabletop of choice. So if you play games like the ones I mentioned, this is a tool to help you further, immerse your players in your world. So right now, we're working on this massive cemetery complex. This is the caretaker's cottage. This is the guy that, manages the property, essentially. So I'm trying to give him a little bit of a space that, is fun and interesting, but also, Honestly, Mateus, I only work on it for about a half an hour a week, maybe an hour tops, because during the stream, I often stop, show teasers, answer questions, we'll open up different maps, etc. No worries, Dimos. If you have any other questions, let me know. So the reality of it is I don't really get much time on it each week. Yeah, during the stream, if y'all have questions, these streams are AMA format, so feel free to ask questions if you have any. You can ask about the next update. You can ask about what I'm building. You can even make suggestions for the build. So if you have any feedback, suggestions, insight. I mean, you can ask if it's gaming related, we could talk about it. I could try and give you advice as a DM or as a player. I'm down for that. Do you want me to check out your most recent map? Is it on the workshop? Need a stump. Yes, that one there. Because I want something for like chopping logs. And an axe. Thinking just like that one looks pretty good. Maybe the hand axe. I like this one though. Yeah, if I don't answer, then maybe someone else will. Cronclore, currently there is not. My best advice for you, and I don't mean this in a callous or cold way, I mean it as from one GM to another, is to do your best to, for right now at least, to ignore it. And I don't say that as an excuse. I say that from experience. I've been dealing with Dungeon Alchemist, going on 3 years now. I was also a community member before I became the community manager, before I was brought on, And I had similar feedback at one point. But I found that almost consistently that feedback is limited to DMs, GMs, the people who make the maps and focus on the build. Almost never do players notice it or care about it or complain about it. More often than not, they're focused on kicking butt and looting and RPing and, just doing cool stuff, casting fireball, you know what I mean? So at the end of the day, I understand your frustration. It can be kind of irritating at times. For now, the best thing to do is wait until we get to a point that we fix it. Remember, we are in early access, so we plan to fix it. Our next update, Fun with Objects, should actually address this, large in part because you'll be able to add roofing and stuff to buildings. So won't really be an issue anymore. For now, though, there's not much you can do about it other than things that kind of make it awkward, makes it more visible than anything. Like things people like to do is set the map into high noon, right? So that gets rid of the shadows inside, which great. That makes you feel a little bit better about the shadows. But guess what? Now every metal surface is super reflective. Every liquid surface is blinding. Let me show you an example. Let me just find some like that. That doesn't make any sense. I'd rather have a couple shadows cast indoors than blinding metal and liquid surfaces, personally. Now, they're both kind of caveats of the software being in early access at the moment. Yes. Party needs to assemble the prince, help get rid of bad parts, accept weak ones, and destroy some. Assemble the prince. What do you mean by that? So, Chronicler, as GMs, we're kind of cursed to be detail-oriented, if that makes any sense. We have this, like, essentially a fixation with the details, the minutia of things. And that's part of the reason we became GMs, DMs in the first place, is because we love, world weaving and crafting a story and storytelling generally. And have a fine grasp of, essentially how plot and, story should be driven. And I think a lot of times that because we're so fixated on the minutia, the finer details, we tend to over exaggerate the importance of some things and under exaggerate the importance of other things to our players. All I'm saying is I don't think your players will judge you for there being a little bit of shadow in the room temporarily from an outside source. I think they'll suspend their disbelief in a world where they can fly and cast fireballs and resurrect people. You know what I mean? Got you. Okay. So essentially, are they going into his mind like an Inception type situation? I like that though. Visualizing it as a maze would work good, and different aspects of the maze could have different things too. They could be differently themed and styled for representing different arcs or different traumas. You could also show imagery that could represent different parts of his life in the maze, like paintings on the wall or like the magic lantern showing an image. There was a movie that was before Inception that kind of did this. It had Jennifer Lopez in it. I'm trying to remember. There's a crazy kind of mind messed up movie where people were going into the head of a serial killer or something. Cell, that's it. Hey, Half Ogre, how you doing? That is the movie, Cell. Kind of that same kind of premise as well. Man, that movie was a trip. I remember at the time everyone said it was just like such a groundbreaking film. And then ever since then, we've gotten nothing but movies that are like kind of like super, super deep that way. And you gotta like pay close attention to what's going on. I just couldn't remember the name of the movie. I just remembered the movie. But yeah, like that is essentially the same concept as an Inception. And I mean, going into someone's subconscious and seeing how their subconscious kind of grasps and interprets the world and their trauma can be very interesting. You could have parts of the map that seem, like his childhood, very infantile, toys, everything's bright and cheery. You could also have parts that are like very dark, dreary, dangerous feeling, and like, to represent the abuse and other things too. Yeah, I mean, you can mix all these kind of three pop culture things: Silent Hill Sanitarium, yeah, exactly. All of these things into one. Cell and kind of an Inception concept. But I think them guiding the prince in his own in his subconscious through the maze and like an escort mission, which escort missions are the worst. But they got to keep him alive and keep him like on task, because he can drift. Things like that. Or he could, become complacent and not want to move on. Because people tend to get rose-colored glasses with their memories, right? So maybe he encounters a memory that he doesn't want to leave. any sort of these things could work in combination. Hey, Stormy, we're doing good. We're kind of brainstorming ideas for Lublin Can's new one-shot that they're working on. Y'all want to hear about an idea that I started as a one-shot and then it got so out of hand it became like its own like campaign module that I essentially worked on for the better part of like the pandemic, and then I never really got a chance to run it? Lublin, I hope any of these ideas helped. Yeah, the GM chat one is great. People are always bouncing ideas off each other for encounters, stat blocks, maps, etc. Nice. You're just like, not my problem, but I'll sit here and support you. You know, there's actually a lot of games and media that do the lost in your own brain kind of mission, maze, you know, whatever. Even Batman Arkham Asylum kind of had something limited like that when the Scarecrow would hit him with the gas once in a while. Thinking of putting some plants on some of the windowsills too. Like we got a pie here. What's up, Chim? So, I'm kind of a big fan of the show Adventure Time. It's like, it's pretty good. Like, I think it's pretty wholesome. It obviously was a kid's show, but it was also designed for the parents of those kids at the same time. And not only did I really enjoy the show, but there was an episode in particular that really resonated with me. It was called Dungeon Train. That particular episode I found so intriguing. And because of this episode, I was kind of inspired to write a story similar to it set in like a 5e universe. I took inspiration from that show and also the show Infinity Train, kind of loosely based off of the two as a composite. And basically, the concept is... Oh, it is, definitely. I mean, what did he say to him? Don't let the dragon drag on, man. Like, quite literally, they said something very, tied to it. Now, that being said, Infinity Train, Dungeon Train, they're also about overcoming kind of your own demons, ultimately addiction in one case, and whatever you need to overcome in the other, personal trauma, whatever, becoming, contending with your growing into adulthood or whatever. We do have some skin type assets, like flesh stuff, right? There's like, this weird eye looking thing that has that weird membrane. We also have an entire biome dedicated to certain like hellscape environments. If you go to the skeletal plains biome, there's several brushes that kind of have that fleshy skin feel. And then lastly, like terrain brushes, I mean, entirely, like, that are like tryptophobic or really gross looking. Or how's that pronounced? Tryptophobic. Anyway, last one, we have these vines, right? Which in the correct lighting, they kind of look like sinew or like that weird kind of fleshy vine. Oh, you should try that biome, my friend. It's a mood. Here, let me show you something that I made in that biome, and you'll be like, whoa, I didn't even know this was possible. Let me save this really quick before we bounce. So, I essentially, I designed a whole new race in the Feywild. It bothers me that there's like so many variations of races for elves, but there's only 2 variations of races for dwarves. There's like just regular, dwarves, and then Dwergar, right? So, in my mind, I wanted something new, right? I wanted a new dwarf. And I came up with a new dwarf that is originally from the Feywild. And in my head, they are essentially, in my canon, they are the dwarves that all dwarves descend from. Essentially, there was a bunch of tribes of early dwarves that were settled in a valley in the Feywild. And one of them left because they didn't agree with everyone else's, whatever. And they ended up being the dwarves in Faerun. So those are the dwarves in Faerun. But the ones in my setting, they're called Frierdverger, which means first dwarves. And they essentially are like a lot like dwarves, but because they've been in the Feywild so long, they're different in a lot of ways. Like their hair ends up being more vibrant colors, more like oranges and purples, and instead of like browns and blacks. They actually trim their beards out of custom, and they grow their hair really, really long and have like braids and stuff in their hair, but they trim their beards and cut them regularly. And the length of their hair kind of shows, and what's in it kind of shows like how old they are and their status. So essentially, you know how to treat someone, or they kind of have a status like marker based on how old they are, or, like an elder, or what's in their hair, what they do for work. If they have like gemstones and gold, maybe they're a jeweler or someone rich. So this here is using that biome that I was telling you, the skeletal plains, and I used these paints here that are like tryptophobic and bloody and skin, fleshy ones, to make what is essentially the inside of a massive titan. Like, you could say this is, any massive creature. And here we have an esophagus, where, they get swallowed, go down the tube there, end up in the stomach, which we've got, the acid water at the bottom. We could even make it a little bit grosser looking, I'm sure. Let's try. It's already muddy water. If you put acid, you can't really see anything. That's why I like the muddy water. Anyway, so you can kind of see like all these weird, like fleshy, I don't even know how to describe it. It's gross though. And then as you go through, you got the intestines. But yeah, this particular biome is not very utilized. The hellscape, maps would be a perfect opportunity to use the skeletal plains biomes. By default, though, it's just fields of bones. It's like, imagine there was a battle so massive that all that's left is just wall-to-wall bones. So, anyway, these dwarves, they live in an isolated kingdom in the Feywild, and the way it's isolated is it's essentially a valley that's surrounded on all sides by nearly impassable razor-sharp mountains that extend for like hundreds of miles, massive mountain ranges, right? There's only a handful of very small paths to get through them that traders use or travelers, and then they're on one side of their entire kingdom, they have access to a massive sea. So they have ports and rivers running through their kingdom to, offload goods at these port cities. And they have several major port cities that is essentially all their major trade goes through those routes. And so, because they're surrounded on all sides by mountains, you better believe they have some of the richest mines in the entire, like, concept of like, you know, D&D and 5e. I wanted them to feel much richer than any, you know, dwarf you could comprehend in Faerun and in, like, Lord of the Rings or anything like that. Imagine mountains so vast and so deep, they could mine their, you know, entire generations and not really make a dent in them. So, ultimately, that's kind of the situation there. I call the massive valley Gullringer, or it's Golden Ring, which is like what they call the massive chain of mountains that's like a ring around their entire valley. So Gullringer Dal is the Golden Ring mountain chain, and they essentially are very, very successful and thriving here. But what I planned to happen was DMs could have an opportunity to shunt their players into this part of the Feywild when they access a portal, because some sort of magic made the portal go somewhere they didn't intend, or maybe they could go to a fairy ring and end up there, whatever. But they're essentially flung to what is the just outer gates of the main kingdom of this entire, like, valley, and they are thrown into a world they don't understand, dwarves they don't really recognize and have never met before, that speak slightly different than dwarves they know. They look different, act different, and so you're kind of just thrown into a whole scenario where you have to adapt and figure out what's going on quickly. Basically the reason they were shunted there is because of a magical event that's happening in the Valley of the Gullringer Dal that is a massive, massive magical event that is essentially a wall that is walled off the main, like, seat of the kingdom, the main city, from the rest of the kingdom. So imagine, like, a massive, like, bubble that has encased that part of the kingdom and blocked it off from the rest. Anybody who tries to leave can't, whether it's by portal or flying, and it's visualized by a massive caravan. There is a caravan that is essentially the wall around this kingdom, and it's endless. It never ends. It just goes on and on and on, just passing groups, walking, camels, you know, carts, wagons, people for miles and miles, traders. And when you try to pass it, you instantly disappear. You disappear. So when you try to get close to it, try to talk to them, try to pass it, you disappear. Oh man, half ogre. That'd be interesting. Do they like dags? I mean, they'd essentially kind of be like the halflings from, like, that the new Lord of the Rings show, right? But you as players are tasked by the king of this kingdom to try and figure out what this portal is, or like this blockade. He calls it a blockade because he refuses to believe it's anything else. He's kind of in his own mind that it's just a blockade. But it really is a magical barrier that is essentially making people disappear when they try to cross it. He sent an entire regiment, including his son, who led it, the prince of his kingdom, to try and, you know, break up the blockade and allow trade and news and travel to get through, and they disappeared. Yeah, I feel like they're kind of like the Harfoots a little bit. Just a little bit, yeah. Half ogre, like the Harfoots, I a little bit. They're essentially wandering nomadic halflings, which would put them in the same, you know, kind of little category there. I don't like to use those terms, so, and because they're kind of insensitive and whatnot. But yeah, like any type of nomadic tribe or nomadic group, essentially, in that case, they kind of fit into that sort of thing there. But they are halflings, like you were saying, and they even talk a little bit like they do in Snatch. So you're almost like identical. Anyway. So this map, I think, is a great example of like how a hellscape can really really be made using that that biome that's kind of underutilized, like I said. Anyway, so the party is tasked with trying to break up the blockade or figure out what's causing it. And yeah, the Endless Caravan is essentially a magical caravan that has been put in place to, a magical blockade that is represented by this mythical Endless Caravan that when you approach it, you're essentially sucked into the caravan and you have to complete a bunch of tasks or like challenges to essentially move on, to get out of it, to pass it, or to leave it, if you will. It's a good question, Half Ogre. So currently, the reason they're not is a limitation to the brush system that we use. So Dungeon Alchemist obviously is in early access, right? Some aspects of Dungeon Alchemist are completely made from scratch by our dev team. Others are kind of like modules and plugins for Unity, right? Because Dungeon Alchemist is developed in Unity, just like any of these development tools, there's lots of add-ons and plugins to kind of make it more full and do different things. So from my understanding and what I've been told is that the terrain brush system is a module, like a third-party module that we're using currently to supplement the whole terrain system. And it's not that great in that it kind of is, I don't know, at times slow, it lags, and the more brushes you have on in the like swatch here in the palette available, the brush system becomes exponentially slower. So a lot of our users aren't necessarily on a very powerful computer. We wanted the average user in DA to be able to use it without any issues. That's one reason. Secondly, Wim has told me essentially at some point they plan to gut this and redo it from the ground up, which would accommodate, any terrain in any biome. When that'll happen, I don't know. For now, though, don't know. If it were me in your shoes trying to get a biome to give me the most options, I would jump into Grasslands. Grasslands has the most brushes in a single biome. I use Grasslands to make islands because it has sand, so you can do like a green kind of center, sand on the outside, and then just put some jungle plants using the object brush. Oh, I'm not seeing it as a complaint. Unfortunately, I just wish I had a better answer. I hate it when my answer is, I don't have an answer. You know what I mean? Wait. Deal with it. That's the answer. It's frustrating for me. I really, too big, sadly. 36 megabytes, too big. Yeah, so the cemetery is 82 by 82. Okay? Currently, we're working on this corner, which is the caretaker's cottage. I'm trying to make it kind of feel like he's lived here a while. He has, food, he has supplies, wood for his furnace and his fire, place to do some laundry. He's definitely made the property his home and feels comfortable and private. Some hedges. We added this little greenhouse last stream. I don't know what we're going to do with it. We'll see. I'm going to put in like rare plants and fun little stuff later. And then we're going to have a shed full of tools and stuff to the side. Also, out front, we put, like I said, this little garden. I'm not sure what I'm going to do here yet. Still deciding. And then I'm going to fill these areas with, like, flagstones and rocks and dirt because this is, like, extra fill from, you know, his work around the graveyard. Now, let's zoom out. Let's just go to the very beginning where I started, which is right here, this corner. And I actually built this entire map perpendicular to the grid. It's off-grid. I could have a little stable area, maybe. Or like a donkey or something. So, again, 82 by 82. Notice how the entrance isn't on the grid. It's at an angle to it. We got a little pond. Some ivy along the gate here. I need to put ivy on both sides because you can only see the ivy from one side for some reason. I guess they didn't give it textures from the other side because it's meant to be on a wall. Makes sense. Saves on size. But, you know, moving on, you go under the entryway. We have a little parking area next to a massive cathedral with a 3-story bell tower that I built by hand. All I did was disable collisions that allowed me to raise objects up and down. And I went in and found a wall in the freestanding walls from, not from this section, but under objects, structural, freestanding walls. So we have walls that match every wall type in here. So I found the one that matched. I raised it up and snapped it into place right above the one below it. Made that all nice and neat. And then all around this chapel is a beautiful garden that took me quite a bit of time to build because I built it all by hand. The pavers were something I found on the workshop, and I kind of had to work with what I had shape-wise to make this. But it is a very beautiful, you know, garden that showcases the various, you know, clergy members and people from their past, places to pray and, you know, reflect. And then behind the chapel is their private kind of burial grounds for martyrs, for, you know, paladins, clerics, anyone who's served in their order over the hundreds of years that it's been here, you know, thousands of years. And then they have their graves here. So people can come pay, you know, respects to them. Sometimes there wasn't much left of them. If there was like a war or something, maybe a trinket, a skull, whatever. Well, the caretaker isn't an undertaker. He is the caretaker. So the caretaker manages the property, digs the graves, manages the plants, keeps things clean, picks up trash. You know what I mean? Undertaker, caretaker, two different people in my opinion. The undertaker would be, you know, either the person that facilitates the death if they're like, oh, they're being hanged or, you know, on the chopping block. They also would, you know, take their body from the morgue to the burial site or to the chapel or whatever. But the build's coming along. As you can see, there's been a lot of work done to it. I only get about a half hour a week of work because we're answering questions the whole time. So, which I don't mind. That's the whole point of these streams. But on occasion, I get sidetracked. You know, we're talking about different things, so not a lot of work gets done. But here we have some kind of average graves. We have a fancier grave site here, which I've kind of seen as like royal graves, like for the royal family and their, you know, various generations. All of this space here will be graves when it's all said and done. I think from here over will be pauper graves, just like really simple, you know, just like cairns, pits, just like basic stuff. And then from here over towards the caretaker's property will be all more like fancier graves. I was going to do terraces where it's like raised up and there's stairs. It's all fenced and there's like a family plot with all of their mausoleums and graves. So it's a bunch of different like fancy family plots. But yeah, this thing is coming along. Let's take a look in the top down here. You can see it's quite vast and it is nearing completion. I'm past the 2/3 mark, I would say now. Once the caretaker's property is all finished, and I can really like hammer out these graves here, it'll go really quick. And then from there, it'll just be minor details, making things feel more like vibrant and real and utilized. Anyway, I hope you all have been enjoying this build. It's been quite an undertaking, to say the least. Man, look at the pavers around this guy's property. It looks so cool. I did all that by hand. Boop, 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 boop. I'm not going to do that. By the way, I've already planned our next Mapmaker Monday after I finish this will be underneath this. It's going to be the catacombs and sewers beneath this place. So I'm going to be teaching everyone how to do sewers, catacombs, all that stuff. Because I've already started planning out little access points to underground areas that are secret. As you can see here, the confessional booth actually has these doors that spin around, so you can be like a secret passage that goes underground here. There's also been people talking about that a necromancer would make a killing here, and that the caretaker's nefarious, to say the least. So I don't know. But one thing we have pointed out is that there's a lot of respect for this clergy and the way they maintain the graves, the grave sites. People do not rob these graves because there are fears of curses and repercussions, stigma, all sorts of stuff. So pretty much only an outsider would consider stealing or robbing these graves. I was considering putting a secret passage under this somewhere. Like in this room, either under this, like if you folded it back, you would see like a hatch or something. He'd do an unkilling, sorry. Over here on this altar, there's a Necronomicon and some blood for some reason. I don't know what's going on there. But I was planning on giving a few secret access points to the catacombs. Like, one of the graves over here might have a secret access point, kind of like in Hunchback of Notre Dame or whatever. And there might be one under, like, a mausoleum and one by the church. And maybe the caretaker has his own access that he knows of. Because he's here all the time. How would he not find secret access points, right? I don't know why necromancers get so much hate. I mean, I do, but like... I laid out this building first, and then put the pavers to it by hand. This building came after I had the pavers, so I had to be careful, but I had it sunk in next to it, so it didn't delete them. Notice it's kind of like a little bit lower. So my son and I always look at build optimizations and ways to cheese a build. And oh my goodness, if you have the Cartomancer feat, by the time you can take Wish, you can essentially have an endless simulacrum pool that can cast wishes for you all day. See, part of the reason it's so restraining normally is because you only get like one wish per simulacrum, right? But if you have the Cartomancer feat and you set that to Wish, then you have 2 castings of Wish. Which means your simulacrum can then cast simulacrum and then cast a Wish before it's out of wishes. Plus it still has all this other spell slots. Like, darn. It's like a pyramid scheme of simulacrums and wishes. Because each one of them gets one below them that each gets a simulacrum and a wish. So it just keeps am I wrong thinking it just doesn't keep expanding? Because if you start with 2, or it's just never ending. As long as you're wishing, well, first off, that bad wish, the monkey paw, would only affect the simulacrum, right? Doesn't affect you if they're the one casting it. And if you're wishing for the things that are within the wish's grasp, i.e. not wishing for things outside the norm, then you don't have the monkey paw. That's why it's so perfect. So if you use it to cast a level 8 spell or less, or any of the described things like the money or resistances and all that stuff, basically you can cast Simulacrum for free, which has a huge price component to it because Wish covers all the components and price in the casting. Come on. It's insane. The Barry Madoff. I love it. Okay, what should I put in this space here? He's got his little gardens here. I'm thinking, obviously, we'll put like flagstone stuff. I'm thinking of maybe putting like shovels and other stuff over here. Maybe even more gardens here because we could put more space. But I'm running out of things to plant. I could put like beans and corn like in rows here. So it's like, like beds of something. Not if you have Cartomancer, Stormy. So Cartomancer allows you to take any spell from your spell list, put it into a card, and cast it as a bonus action. So technically, they would have that feat, and you could put Wish in that card, and then they would have Wish. It's broken. Heck, I could even start not by casting Wish to get a Simulacrum. I could make the first 2 by hand, casting them myself. Ultimately, with the money if I wanted to, because why not? I'm just saying, it is kind of a scary possibility how far it can go just because that card gives you an extra casting of Wish. Does that make sense? Maybe more firewood. I just like this stack here. It's nice and clean. Oh, I could put a chicken coop. Yep, that's what I'll do. A chicken coop. I could put the chicken coop in here like this, or out here. But then I could put the wood out here under the window, and then put the coop like that. I like that. And then maybe put a little bit of fence under it, or around it. Also kind of morbid that the chopping block's right next to them. Isn't Pathfinder even more game-breaking at times? You're still PF1? Does he carve them too? I would feel like the mason in town would probably do that, right? or like the quarry nearby. Though that is a good suggestion. I could put a few headstones. I was thinking of like putting like flagstones and something like that, like just extra stuff that's like left over from digging up graves, essentially. I need a little fence area here for the chickens, so I'm trying to figure that out. Foist. If I make this a room, I could fill it with like hay. So I just may down by the bay. What do you say? Hmm. You know what? I'll just generate it without walls and put them myself. Actually, a nice little bit of ground there. And then what we'll do is we'll go into the floors here, and I'm going to change this to a natural flooring. I want it to be like some hay. And then we'll take the wall tool, and I'm going to find some fences. Hey, Ricky. Whoa, where'd that half wall go? I'm so confused right now. There it is. Okay, I'm just going to do that, and then we'll put a gate on it. Call it a day. It is giving me all sorts of business. Which gate do I like the most? I guess I could just do two gates like this, because then it looks interesting. Looks kind of nice. Like a fenced-in area. This is still the cemetery. I'm just working on the caretaker's property. Everyone said, hey, we need a caretaker, so I've been trying to, like, figure out a way to... that's too big. I don't like that. Let's do the little gate. We'll probably do this one, because it kind of matches the style. And then we'll... Does that open inward? It's like this. It opens outward. The chickens can run away. Want it inward. Good. And then he can walk right up to it, go out. How you doing, Ricky? What's new, brother? Hey, see you later, Tim. Thank you for being here. But yeah, I like that idea, by the way. Tim, I'll consider it, okay? Hey, Eric. How you doing, buddy? See, that looks good. Nice use of the space. Just doesn't feel wasted. I want to make sure none of this is clipping. I can keep expanding it just a little bit. Oh, nice. I didn't know you had a laser cutter. Nice, dude. Yeah, I have a laser as well. I need to get a new fan for it, though. The fan went out on the cooling unit for the top of the laser. You know how they have like that big heatsink block on them? The little fan on it went out for me, but oh man, it is a pretty cool little cutter. I use it to etch like slate and leather and all sorts of stuff. And I put a big metal plate under it so it won't like cut into anything or hurt anything underneath it. Like I went and got some sheet metal and kind of like sanded it so it wasn't reflective and then just put it underneath it. Pretty cool. We need a water for these, for the babies here. Tub like this, we can put it. Yeah, I'll show you the decals. Give me 1 minute. To be honest, we probably should be wrapping up the stream, so I'll save this and we'll show the decals and end. We actually ran about 10, 20 minutes long today. Don't mind at all. Like, it's fun for me to run long, so don't worry. Maybe could put a little pond on his property somewhere, like right here would be a nice space for a pond. Oh, I know which one you're talking about. The trough? Like one of these? Thinking I might end up needing a well. I realize there's no water source over here either. Just a simple well like this. That ain't gonna work for me. A good spot right in front of his house. And I can also put one of these stones right here as like a connection point. Anyway, alrighty. Thank you for dropping the schedule and stuff. Our next stream will actually be, let's see here, Wednesday, and it's a Discord exclusive stream. So if you want to tune into that, make sure you check us out in our Discord. Every Wednesday we stream there. We call it Office Hours. It's a place for our Discord community to hop in and enjoy the streams because unfortunately they cannot participate in the multi-streams like we do on Saturday and Monday. So during office hours, we hang out, we provide real-time support. It's a great place to bounce ideas off of other GMs for your campaign, whether it's a stat block, an encounter, story ideas, etc. Great place to see teasers and information for upcoming, development. And lastly, it's just a great place to hang out with like-minded GMs. At the end of the day, we want to give you a space where, you have others to hang out with who have similar interests, similar, ideas, similar... you get what I'm saying, right? So these streams are kind of a third space for you to hang out, get to know DA better as a whole, but also kind of come up with new ideas for your campaigns, make acquaintances and friends, and master your ability with Dungeon Alchemist as a whole. It is kind of secret club stream. It's a real cool club. Not everyone knows about it. Here, let's keep this decal tool playing. This is an upcoming feature in the next update, by the way. It allows you to essentially place what are like images, stickers on top of the ground, the wall, objects, etc., so you can make it much more immersive and unique looking. Appreciate everyone being here today. Had a lot of fun hanging out with you all. Mapmaker Monday is always a blast, to be honest with you. I feel like I got a lot done, actually, when it came to the stream today. Did the whole hedge, right? Started doing the ivy around the house, which we'll finish next time. It was just getting boring. We laid out the garden. This little area here. Got us a chicken coop, which looks fantastic, I must add. That's a good question. Currently, the current build does not, but Wim says they're working on making it have the option to make custom decals. Whether or not that'll make it into the final build remains to be seen. If it doesn't make it this update, it may make it the next update, is what I'm kind of getting at the moment. We'll get there when we get there. But yeah, they're trying to make that work, for sure. I mean, yeah, but you can currently do watermarks pretty easily just through the trace overlay. But yeah, it will be nice to just stamp them in a few spots. You could hide them under things and in spots where it'll be really hard for people to notice them. So if someone's like, oh yeah, I made this map, you could be like, no, you didn't. But the abstracts allow you to insert, watermarks if you want to. That's my way to go do it right now. Do. And then it's not shown like this. But then when you export it, it is shown on the side. By the way, pro tip for you creators, your map makers, if you show your watermark on the map, they can just delete it. If you put it as a stamp on the outside of the map like this, they won't notice it until they export it. Now, thinking of which, I kind of want to put the Mapmaker Monday tag on this. Where are my watermarks? Doesn't that look nice? Just put it above like that. It won't take me but 10 minutes to do that. But that's pretty nice, I think. All right, thank you everyone for being here. Really appreciate you so much. Before we take off, I just want to say thank you again for participating in these community initiatives. It means the world to me when people show up to the streams, whether it's just, hanging out in chat, whether you're lurking, you're here for support, or, you just hop in and throw it on mute and give us a view while you're busy working or whatever. All of that means the world to myself and the dev team. As an indie team, we don't have a ton of resources and manpower, so when we get, extra viewers in here or people spreading the word of mouth of Dungeon Alchemist, telling their friends, family, co-workers and stuff about it, it really does help us, a lot. So we appreciate when you show up to the streams and help, boost our numbers and get people in here and noticing and checking us out, because otherwise they probably wouldn't. Thank you again for being here for part of the stream. We'll see you Wednesday if you want to tune in for office hours. Otherwise, the next stream after this is Saturday, and that's the Dam stream. That'll be Saturday multi-stream at 12 p.m. Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. UTC. Again, my name is Mac, the community manager for Dungeon Alchemist. We'll see you next time I give a damn. Back out. Bye. I'm going to run a quick Dungeon Alchemist theme ad, and we're going to end the stream.
You stand before the long, dark road to the fabled realm of Goyak-Ta, and before—
What do we see?
I don't know, a goblin.
I kill him!
But before she does, I, Gilliam of Firth, demand to know the goblin's name.
Hi, my name is Woblin.
Where do you live there, Woblin?
I don't think that's relevant.
Well, but I, Gilliam of Firth, demand to seek the goblin's abode.
Clever, find family, kill entire bloodline. I like it.
Seriously, we're doing this? Okay, well, won't be needing that anymore, will I?
Ever get caught by your players with your pants down? Dungeon Alchemist lets you create wonderful maps for any encounter in seconds.
Oh, Woblin, that's a very impressive cheese collection you've got there.
Yeah, it is quite impressive, yes. But you know what's more impressive? This map I have to the
Fabled realm of Goyak-Ta. Please take it and leave. Close the door behind you.
Mr. Woblin, I cannot help but notice that you have a secret tunnel underneath your cabinet. Care to explain?
Download Dungeon Alchemist, the AI-powered map maker, on Steam today.
All right, everyone. Thank you for being here. Mac out. Bye.